So, new versus old. Old build consists of Warrior, Tabi, Hydra's Lament, Yoden's Wrath in the specific order. After that, it could be any order, whichever you like, Titan's Bane, Heartseeker, and Transcendence. This build provides 40% cooldown, basic attack damage at 370, 284 total power, 20 flat ignored pen, 15% ignored pen deals more damage against higher defensive targets. Bonus 227 unmitigated damage against someone with Raw who has the lowest physical protections, which is at 60, will take 142 bonus damage, which is an 85 damage loss. Bonus 231 mana every 5 stacks, and you also get 0 increase in movement speed. The new build consists of Warrior, Tabi, Hydra's Lament, and Yoden's Wrath in this order. After that, you will go into this order again, just like this. The new build consists of 40% cooldown reduction, basic attack damage at 364, total power of 278, 25 flat ignored pen, 20 flat reduction pen, which totals at 45 flat pen. So you would reduce 20 protections and then ignore another 25. Gives you 50 physical protections, 150 bonus health, and gives you, of course, anti-heal, which is 40%, but also giving you 0 increase in movement speed. So hopefully this gives you an objective point of view. I did not include mana or anything like MP5 or whatnot. This will give you basically all the necessary stats you would need to know, and you can conclude this on yourself. Now I'm going to be explaining for the rest of the video why this build, why over this build, and whatnot. So this is the longer portion of the video. I gave you the 2 builds. Hope you conclude on your own. If you want to know my opinion, then stick around. Heartseeker is an item that needs to go. Heartseeker gives you no movement speed, and that was my initial reason of keeping Heartseeker, simply because movement speed is very valuable. It is a very undermined stat in Smite, but it is extremely valuable. The passive is the reason why I'm giving this item up completely. 30 power, 10 physical penetration is not bad, but the bigger issue is the passive. So at 5 stacks, you will deal more damage, right? The problem with this ability is you can only do it once every so team fight, which is frustrating. It's really annoying having to go back to a side camp and restack this. It's just not it's not efficient. It's not consistent. So all in all, I want this item to be removed from my build, because the damage isn't really that big, as I showed you before. This item will give you 227 unmitigated damage, and correct me if I'm wrong, math, sometimes I forget to carry the 1. So while that is all right damage, it isn't enough to be considered valuable, especially when gods will mitigate it. Raw, which again has the lowest physical protection in the entire game, correct me if I'm wrong, will only take 142 damage from the 227, which is not a lot. 100 extra damage, 150 extra damage is not worth going to a camp auto attacking 5 times for. The mana increase from Heartseeker is not relevant, because you don't need it when you have Transcendence. You will never run out of mana if you have Transcendence. If you haven't backed for more than 20 minutes, then that's your problem. But so Heartseeker's mana gain, not relevant. You do get 200 mana from Heartseeker, which gives you like 10 power, but that's not, again, a huge difference, and it's not an item to be worth keeping. Void Shield. The reason why I choose Void Shield is because I need to replace Heartseeker and Titan's Bane. Titan's Bane, let me explain this. This item is 15% of enemy god's physical protection. So if you do 15% off of some squishy, you will get around 10 flat pen, 10 ignored pen, which is not a lot, because that's the lowest. Yoden's Wrath gives you 10. This will give you 10 when you can get 15 from Brawlers or 20 from Void Shield. All in all, Titan's Bane is not efficient. It doesn't even work on towers anymore. So Titan's Bane will only work on gods, and gods only. So this isn't useful. No, it does not work on minions. It doesn't work on anything else. It only works on gods. And it only gives you 30 power, not relevant. This item is only relevant if the enemy team is completely tanky. If that's the case, you substitute Brawler's Beatstick for Titan's Bane. And keep in mind that these two are different. These are 2 builds right here. One, and then the second one's here. So if someone has, if the entire enemy team is completely tanky, if you see the hunter or the squishy mage assassin building a lot of tanky items, feel free to swap out brawlers with Titan's Bane. That's only if you're unable to 100 a given god with your abilities. So that should be situational. That's what the item is supposed to be, situational. Transcendence will remain same. Will remain same simply because of 10% cooldown reduction and because you need at least one source of given power. So back to Void Shield, I need another way to gain penetration. Penetration is extremely important with Loki. It gives his split pushing capabilities extremely, it helps. Flat pen will definitely help. Now, Void Shield, of course, does not apply to structures. It only applies to gods, unfortunately. So it kind of like in a Titan's Bane situation, but I mean, you could replace it with Crusher. However, Crusher is only good for taking towers down and objectives. It is not efficient against gods simply because the passive damage is not a lot or late game, and you kill people faster than 2 seconds. So you naturally kill someone in 1 second, which ruins the point of Crusher's passive. Crusher's passive lasts for 2 seconds. If you kill someone in 1 second, then what's the point of the passive? You kill so fast, even your bleed off of your 1 doesn't fully come off. And if they still survive, then your Vanish will kill the person, not your 30 damage Crusher, which is probably a lot less against tankier opponents. It's like 15, 10, I don't know. So yeah, Void Shield will definitely help simply because it helps your team as well. This is a team fighter Loki build, more or less. You're getting anti-heal to help yourself kill hunters with their life-stealing abilities, and the new god called Pele. Pele is a very annoying character. However, I figured out ways to deal with her, but whatever, I'll explain that later. Brawler's Beast definitely helps against characters who heal. Healing is a problem with Loki. Healing keeps people alive, and that's the complete opposite of what Loki wants. So while Brawler's Beat Stick, I have said before, is a selfish item, and you don't need to get on Loki simply because Loki's single target. So if you see, now I'm assuming you're Loki jungle. If you're going Loki solo and you have a Thor jungle, clearly don't pick this item up. Replace this item with Titan's Bane. Or if you really, really want to, Crusher, but again, it's not worth it unless you're split pushing half the game. So yeah, Brawler's Beat Stick unless someone else can buy it. Void Shield. You need to tell your team that you're building Void Shield as Loki. But if you build Void Shield as Loki, you cannot split push because then you're ruining the point of the passive and the entire reasoning of being a Loki team fighter. Void Shield gives you, the power is not relevant. You only have 10 power difference. That's because Brawlers is plus 10, Titan's Bane's minus 10. So that still adds up to the same power, except that Heartseeker got 200 mana plus, which gives you 10 more power from Transcendence. Otherwise, if you don't have Heartseeker, you would have the same amount of power from both builds. The protection reduction helps your entire team, so it's a very selfless pick. It also gives you protection, so it allows you to actually initiate against certain enemies and fight against junglers more efficiently, who are generally physicals. And it gives you, of course, 150 mana, which is useful. Being tanky is really great. So this is not really a hybrid build. More of a hybrid build would have more defense on both sides, magical and physical. But this is just like a help, you know? When you're fighting against a hunter, he will deal a little bit less damage than you, because 50 protections is still a lot. It's like 10 less from Mantle of Discord. So this is, again, very useful. Now, another complaint about Void Shield, or at least a con, would be that it reveals you, essentially. Because you can see the Void Shield debuff on your whatever this is, your hotbar, your character, health bar, whatever. And that is a good argument, that is true. The only problem is the odds of the enemy looking down there while they're fighting is very unlikely. It's like, I don't know if this is a good example, but it's like driving, and then at the very bottom right, like near a gear stick, your shift gear or whatever, it is like the picture of the Void Shield. You're not going to look off the road just to look at that, because if you keep your eyes off the main objective, you might just die. So, I mean, you can go ahead and look down there and see if Loki's nearby, but if you're not looking at the screen, the main area we're supposed to be looking at, like a Gold Fury, Fire Giant, the enemies, then I'm doing my job even better. So to say that Void Shield reveals Loki is not true, especially when this is 55 units, which means I can be anywhere within the 55 units. So it doesn't reveal my exact location, however, it does reveal that I am nearby. But then again, Vanish already makes such a loud noise that it already gives your location away. And again, when people are team fighting, they're not going to pay attention to this Void Shield thing, so don't worry about it. That's probably about it about the builds. I gave every explanation. Golden Bow or Golden Blade. Unfortunately, this item will not be useful in Loki. It gives you attack speed, which is not relevant. Its power is kind of mediocre, and its movement speed is great. But, I mean, the passive is obviously what's known for. But it's just Loki doesn't need this. As a jungler, you don't need this because you're already clear fine, and you're sacrificing a lot of damage potential by getting this item. Because you're focusing on clear. When the jungler's point is not to focus on clear, it's to gank, you know, at least for Loki. For Loki solo, maybe. You could maybe pick this up early on and then sell it, but you probably shouldn't. It's not worth it. You at level 7, you're dequicking clear a full wave. Except for maybe the first, like, 3 creeps in the beginning, but you can just auto-attack them or kill them or whatever, because they're tanky. So you don't need Golden Blade. And plus, you're telling yourself, as Loki, I'm going to auto-attack things and not be invisible, not going to keep my space, because good luck doing that. Good luck when a Zonkui is trying to kill you, when you're just trying to, okay, Zonkui, please move out of the way so I can auto-attack these minions. No, he's not going to allow you. He's going to kill you. So this item is definitely not worth it. This item forces Loki to be a close-range melee attacker, which makes him vulnerable. The point of Loki is to go invisible and then kill someone within a second. This item prevents you from doing that. So do not get Golden Blade on Loki, also known as Golden Bow, if anyone's familiar with that. So this is not a Loki item. It's still fun to do. Go ahead and try if you want to, but it is not. Don't rely on this in ranked or anything like that. Again, I already explained about. Some people may talk about Soul Eater. It doesn't work on Loki. The amount of lifesteal you get from this is so relevant, 15%, like, that's nothing. This item works better on Sasano or any character who has AoE damage, so you can hit, you know, multiple people with one ability. So it'll be like 15% of that, 15% of that, 15% of that, and so forth. But even then, that's still not worth it. The only character this item works for is most likely just Pele, because of her passive. Another thing maybe people may talk about is Boomba's Mask. Boomba's Mask is, I mean, it's great on Morgan, but not for Loki. The power is really just mediocre. The cooldown, I mean, you already have 30% from these 2 items, so you'll overcap, and you also will deal less damage. Hello, you know, if it's 10% damage taken, maybe, but it's still, the cooldown's way too high. The power is insignificant, and you will deal less damage. Fun fact, percentage, this is a 10% minus damage. A percentage works better the bigger the number is. And guess what Loki's full of? A bunch of big numbers, you know, killing you. So no, this item will not work. Don't get on Loki. Lotus Mask, you're obviously Loki support. I just, no, no. Stone Cutting Sword. This item has been talked about before. The Stone Cutting Sword, unfortunately, does not work Loki. Before I did mention Stone Cutting Sword and to buy Stone Cutting Sword. That's because there was no penetration items in this game before. There wasn't like items like Crusher, or at least there was. It wasn't that great. And again, I wasn't really a smart person back then. I didn't look at the mathematics except for Transcendence. But now I'm looking at math at everything. So the passive is you're basically telling me after 3 auto attacks, you're then going to deal the truest amount of damage, which is stupid. It only takes 3 auto attacks to kill someone. So what's the point of this item? And this makes Loki a boxer, not efficient. Not efficient. You don't want to make Loki an auto attacker. The more auto attacks he has to make, the more likely he's gonna die. So you don't want to get that. Bloodforge is a Bloodforge is an item. Now remember, this is a Conquest build. You can obviously do this build anywhere else, but it doesn't matter. This is a Conquest. The main focus of this game is Conquest. You can build whatever you want on other game modes. I don't know. Don't ask me questions related to Arena or Joust or whatnot. But all I can say is Bloodforge is not an item you should get on Loki. The passive isn't worth it because you're essentially telling me that if you don't kill someone, this item will be irrelevant. The lifesteal is irrelevant too. 15%, that's not worth it. Like, Loki is not an auto attacker. Don't force him to rely on something other than just killing you. Again, the shield's not worth it. What if someone takes your kill? That happens a lot. So don't rely on Bloodforge. Bloodforge, however, is a good item in Arena, simply because If you're not stacking Transcendence, then yes, you should get Bluff. If you don't get Transcendence, get Bluff Forge. Simple as that. Ruined Forge Hammer, 40 power, and great, a lot of health. 40 power is great. Enemies take 50% extra damage from you if they're affected by crowd control. Okay, so I have just tested Ruined Forge Hammer, and guess what? The passive of this is irrelevant. It does not increase the damage of your 3 or your ultimate. I just tested on his aim strike just to see if it applies or not, but no, I tried. I replaced this item with Ansile, which is the same power, right? So I still did the same amount of damage. It didn't make a difference. It's after, you know, it's while they're slowed. So in other words, the damage applies first and then the slow. So it's not useful if that's happening, because that means you're essentially telling me that you will only deal more damage to the person with your auto attacks only, which is irrelevant. That's not great at all. For example, Loki's Assassinate as well. Loki's ultimate will deal damage first and then stun. That is why you can't ult Nemesis Shield, because this game is stupid. So yeah, the damage applies first and then the stun. So that means while they're stunned, your next auto attack, you know, while they're stunned for 1 second, will deal more damage. But that's it. That's not worth it. So no, Ruined Forge, not a good item, not worth it, not at all. Okay, so Shifter Shield. It is it's a little debated question between the source of power when it comes to Loki. So first of all, this item is bad. Why? Because you're telling me that you will only deal a lot of damage after you have or higher than 50% HP. So in other words, you're telling me that if you have 49% HP, you're gonna just not fight, or you're just not gonna deal damage. That's really stupid. That's you're limiting yourself. You're limiting your potential. What if you get poked from a distance and it's like, oh man, I have 49% health, let me just make a U-turn and not attack? Like, it's not worth it. The amount of protections you get from this is not that much, especially when you will have Void Shield, which will give you the same amount of physical protections as Shifter Shield, but forever. So again, it's not worth it. And magical protections, typically are mages. Mages you can generally avoid abilities from. It's the hunters and the warriors that really are scary, not the magicians, who can be avoided fairly easily. So yeah, Shifter Shield, not a good item. Masamune is another item that keeps hitting me in the face, because you guys love to just pick a random item and then say, what about this, rather than actually thinking about what the item does and what Loki does. But it's okay, that's what I'm here. That's what I'm here for. So Masamune, or more pronounced correctly is Masamune, gives you 50 physical power, health, and movement speed. Great. Great, wonderful. The problem is the passive is useless. You're wanting Loki to be close to every enemy in this game. Why? In Arena, you can have an argument for that because you're always near enemies. But in Conquest, you're not always near 5 people. In team fights, you're not going to be the one to be in the front lines. You're going to be in the side lines where the enemies are fighting each other, and the tanks are going to separate themselves from the squishes most of the time. So you're not going to be using this active or this item to its fullest. This is only giving you 35 protections, which isn't a lot. I mean, it's just like Shifter Shield. It's not a lot. It's not worth it. 35 protections will not save your life. Of course, okay, yes, it can save your life. But those are very rare exceptions, and you could even say the same thing for 1 physical protection. 1 physical protection can make a difference. Anything could make a difference. What I'm saying is it worth it? No, it's not an item to be spending for. It is not enough. If it gave, for example, 70 power, maybe, but then again, Bluff Forge is like right here saying, hey man, my passive's a lot better. Bluff Forge passive is a lot better than Masamune's passive. So yeah, not good. Kin size is another item that sometimes gets brought up. I know this seems to be a very trolly thing, but it's reasonable. This is more of a reasonable item to say. Kin size works on any character that basically has weird progression chain attacks. So, for example, You see how Loki is 1.5, 0.5, 0.5, 1.5. Essentially, what Kin Size will do is buff these three in the middle. So, you know, you will deal 0.5 of your basic attack damage, but you will deal more because of Kin Size. So that makes sense. This is why characters with progression chains, weird progression chains like Kali or whatnot, would get Kin Size. Now, this isn't just for progression chains. Got hunters who don't have progression chains, or like Bakasura who doesn't have progression chains, still get Kin Size, but they get it more because of the more specifically because of the passive. But the real reason, the real argument for this is that will turn this down is that why are you attacking tanky players? And if you are, because of Warlock Sash, which is a great reason. Warlock Sash is a perfect reason. The thing is, you're making Loki an auto-attack character. You don't, and again, I'm gonna keep repeating myself, you don't want to make Loki an auto-attack character. The longer you're visible, the longer someone lives, and the longer you're visible, the more likelihood of you dying. Their goal is to kill someone 1 to 2 seconds and then leave. That's the whole point. You're a hit and run character. That's what Loki is. And that attack speed is not worth it. The power is good, but it's just, you're making Loki a auto attacker. And by the way, I used to build Kin Size on Loki. This was back in season 1 when I used to build Loki in Joust. I played Joust only for like 1700 games straight, and I only built Kin Size on Loki, and I thought it was great. And it was ish, not really. It's not great. It wasn't efficient, but nonetheless, I can understand why people pick this up. However, I'm telling you right now that this item is not worth the DPS. And the last but not least is going to be crit. Now, crit, again, is mentioned sometimes, especially for the new players. Crit, you don't build it on Loki ever. Unless it's like 100 or 90% crit chance for one item, you don't want to build it. The main reason for that, the main reason, now don't get me wrong, crit is the highest amount of potential damage you can get on a physical character. Essentially, it's doubling your damage plus 30% of that. And then also, if you can account for Hydra's Lament, which is 50%, that's a lot of damage. However, it just isn't going to work, especially if you have Malice too. Malice and Deathbringer, that's scary. The problem is the chance of you getting that. If Loki, okay, so think of it like this: if Loki can typically I would say around 2 to 3 shot a squishy. With my combo at least, it's 1 auto, 3 auto, 2 auto. That's 3 auto attacks will 100 any squishy with full if you have full build, and if they don't have any protections, that will one shot. So you're telling me you have 3 attempts to land a crit, and you're willing to sacrifice damage like penetration or whatever that's constant, like forever. You always have 15 flat pen in any situation. You're willingly to sacrifice that for 50% crit chance or whatever. That you're making Loki RNG. You want to avoid RNG as much as you can. The reason why hunters can get away with this is because they have the range advantage. They can throw auto attacks as much as they want, and they won't get punished for it because, you know, they're ranged. Certain assassins get this item because they're just so attack speed based, it doesn't matter. They attack like 4 times every 1 second, or like half a second. Like their attack speed is so ridiculously high, they can afford getting crits. Naja typically gets crit because of his ultimate, not because of anything else. It's to synchronize with his ultimate. So crit, not good, because you have to sacrifice 2 items to pick up 50% crit. And if you get rage, I mean, again, the power is so low, and yeah, you're telling me you're going to replace 3 items, and if not, 2 items is still a lot. So no, rage or any crit items will not work on Loki at all. When it comes to starter items for Loki, and again, this is for Conquest, any other game mode, I don't know or care. Assassin's Blessing is for jungle. If you're not going jungle, you're going Loki solo or mid or whatever. You want to start with tier 2 boots. You want to rush boots essentially. Tier 2 boots, get 1,000 gold back, finish boots, get a chalice, and then maybe wards if you have it, and then go back to your lane. If you're playing ADC, you want to get mana chalice. If you're playing solo, you want to get health chalice because you already have mana buff, so you don't need, you know, mana. And you're typically rushing trance a little bit earlier in solo lane. So, you know, and again, in dual lane, you also kind of rush it a bit. In mid lane, not so much, because, you know, there's people in your lane constantly who might take your stacks, so you might want to put that a little bit later down. So, you know, that's the That's the starter item. Your starter item in Conquest is either Assassin's Blessing or Tier 2 Combat Boots. For relics, it's just very easy. Beads and Aegis. Any character who can get killed easily will get beads and Aegis. Beads you should always have with Loki. If you're stunned, that's your worst nightmare. If you're, again, the more vulnerable, the more visible you are, the longer you're not invisible or out of sight, the more chance of you dying. Beads is very necessary because in case you messed up somewhere, you can always beads and just run out. Aegis is also very valuable for gods like Naja or any character who has like that immense burst you just want to avoid. If you don't want to get Aegis, you can typically get Teleport if you're playing solo, even though I don't recommend getting Teleport. I think it's worth, in my opinion, to lose a few waves and be behind because you're Loki and you'll just get ahead anyway. I think Loki is a very, very strong exception to the idea of like tactically losing early on to then, you know, once you reach level 7, level 8, 9, you'll just clear waves easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if you're gonna get teleport and you're not confident in your abilities, then sure, get teleport. But make sure to have Beach. Beach is just amazing. Blink is also another item that you can substitute. Blink is a great assassin relic. So definitely, if you're playing jungle and you feel confident, they don't have too much CC, they don't have a Kumba, Nox, or anything like that, feel free to get Blink. You know, it's a little risky, but it can be rewarding. The other item that you could replace Aegis for is Heavenly Wings. This is more of a supportive item, so you know if you feel like the enemy team has so much slows and your team is just like struggling, feel free to pick up the Sprint. I think it's great. It's also a really good selfish item for Loki. The cooldown is relatively, you know, okay. It's like 130 seconds, right? If no, it's actually 10 seconds less for Aegis, so it comes up faster. And you get, you know, Fatalis, but that's not too important. It's the fact that you're immune to slows and you move faster. That's the reason why you're getting this item. Now for more controversial items. Sunder is just a garbage item. No one picks this up. It's not worth it. So that's all I have to say about it. Bracer of Undoing is great. It's essentially, you know, you get 3 seconds from your ability. That's great. You can pull off so many cool combos with this active. And of course you get mana health back. So if you get bursted down, it's really good. Problem is, people typically get anti-heal, and so it's not worth it at all. If they see you pick this up, if they see you pick this item up, they'll straight up just build anti-heal and you will heal nothing from this. And because you can't sell actives, well, I guess you're stuck and doomed. Only works against lower level matches, not in high level play. If you want to be a split push fanatic, then sure, go get Belt of Frenzy. But again, these items are not realistic. These items are like probably very niche or very situational, or if you're just feeling very confident, or if you're just playing casuals, sure. But again, you don't get this. I would stay with Beads and Aegis, just like what every other squishy does. Those are the two main items you should focus on. Beads especially. CC immunity is great. You can pull up so many great comebacks with this. It's great. And that should be it for Loki build. That's really about it. I think I've covered everything. If not, let me know and I'll comment about it. And please don't. And if anyone suggests like, oh, why don't you get Icovale or Silver Branch Bro, I will ignore that because that's just too far-fetched. I already asked a lot of far-fetched and silly questions such as Fatalis and whatnot. So yeah, please keep that at bay. Don't ask me about what about Toxic Blade or what about Devourer's Gauntlet. Like, no, I'm not going to answer to those questions. So I'm sorry if I don't. I will think of you as a troll. If you genuinely are curious, then I hope this video would tell you that it's not correct what you're thinking. Like, don't tell me you should get Berserker and Glider Shield. Loki deals auto damage and ability damage. It's a great combo. Like, no, don't. Watch me next week come back saying, hey, Gladiator Shield and Berserker Shield, OP on Loki. No. So, again, that's really about it. So that's really about it, guys. I hope this video helps. I decided to do this in 2 ways. The first half of the video, which is essentially like a few minutes long, will be the quick tutorial on like differences between the old and new build, and you can make your own conclusions. If you're curious to know why I say this, then stick around for the longer version, because I understand a lot of my tutorial videos are very long and boring, and I understand it, and I'm sorry. That's what it is. If you want to learn, you got to deal with the boring potential consequences. So yeah, for those who just want to quickly get a build, the first few minutes is there for them. For those who are trying to understand why and how, would watch this entire video. But I kind of want to favor both audiences: the ones who just want to get a quick get in and out, and the others who want to stay and learn or ask questions. So yeah. So again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please post it down below. And this is Professor Loki, and I'll see you guys all Loki and non-Loki players next time.